all night and I work all day. Kick it.
Wrestling is amazing, is it not? It's like a live-action comic book. Go with me on this. Once upon a time, there was a wrestler known as Big Van Vader, a gigantic mass of man, muscle, and physical intimidation. Now, when he showed up for the first time in Japan in 1987, he was jarring. He was based on a feudal Japanese samurai warlord. Yes, Darth Vader of Star Wars fame is partly named for the same samurai. He was massive, with a black mask, which took away his humanity, making him seem like more of a monster than a man. And he was evil, proving it by beating up Antonio Inoki. It caused a riot, which got New Japan banned from that venue. In reality, Vader was an American football player turned wrestler named Leon White, and that just isn't as interesting as the Evil Gaijin Vader. So, that's why they did it. It's a gimmick. One of the many tropes in wrestling. Fans of the spectacle that is professional wrestling are well acquainted with these necessary elements of storytelling enhancement. You may love them, you may claim to hate them, but they are part of the package. So with that in mind, I'm Walt, the most gangster nerd on YouTube, and these are the wrestling tropes we claim to hate, but really love. Number 10, the Hokey gimmick. Not to be confused with the comedy gimmick, which when done correctly is awesome. No, the Hokey gimmick is something so ill thought out that you really can't justify it. You go back to 80s and 90s WWE, then WWF, and you get some of the best Hokey gimmicks ever. The Ultimate Warrior, Earthquake and Typhoon, The $1 Million Man, Isaac freaking Yankum. WCW got some in there as well. They had the Demon, the Renegade, and of course the Dungeon of Doom, a Hokey stable of Hokey gimmicks. But this is still going strong today. You got Luchasaurus, Abaddon, The Fiend, Psycho Clown, Captain freaking New Japan. But if you thought it stopped there, au contraire, mon frere, from France. There has always been gimmick matches. Some are great, like the cage match, the coffin match, or the different variations of the chain match. Some are so gloriously ridiculous you cannot say their entire names without at least smiling. The Punjabi prison match. See what I mean? And some being so bad they scream nonsense or pulled out last minute. Remember that Tower of Doom match with Hogan and Macho Man in 3 stacked up cages that was against way too many people? Not Kevin Sullivan's best booking. And more recently, Orange Cassidy versus Chris Jericho in a Mimosa Mayhem match. Basically, whoever falls in this tub of juice loses. But it doesn't stop there. You can find examples of this way back. Remember the scaffold flag match? Steve Austin was in that. And this is even extended to pay-per-views. Remember the King of the Ring was a pay-per-view? Uncensored, which always fell short in my opinion because nothing was uncensored. Halloween Havoc, I remember seeing Abdullah the Butcher get electrocuted. It also got bad there at the end of WCW. Remember the pay-per-view Sin? That was the name. Sin. Hokey. Number 9, the rich bad guy. Who does not love to hate a rich guy? It's the main reason it works. Legendary wrestling personality Jim Cornette started out as a rich mama's boy. Ted DiBiase as the $1 Million Man was impossible not to hate. Both Ric Flair and Gino Hernandez were the elite heels who were so successful they got rich. Even MJF, the modern day heat magnet, is a play on the rich kid. Listen to his promos and when he was on Steve Austin's old podcast. Why does this trope work? Because we all wish we were rich. And we don't like anybody who thinks they're better than us just because they're rich. The rich bad guy in wrestling manages to cover both of these points of conflict, giving you a multi-layered character to hate before you even get started. Number 8, the Kayfabe families. The Harts from Canada, the Noai family from the Polynesian Islands, the McMahons. These are examples of real families in wrestling. You also have the Von Erichs, who are also a real family, but their family name wasn't actually Von Erich. But you know a wrestling family where none of the members were ever related? The Andersons. They're totally kayfabe. Gene Anderson was the only Anderson that actually was an Anderson. Arn and Ole? Nope, they're a gimmick. And Machine Gun Carl Anderson? probably has as good a chance of being related to me as he does the Andersons. Along with the Andersons, you got EC3 being Dixie Carter's nephew, Hornswoggle being Fit Finley's son, we love you Dave, Undertaker and Kane, the gigantic brothers of destruction. Even Eddie Graham, who owned Championship Wrestling from Florida, wasn't really a Graham. He started out as the kayfabe brother of Dr. Jerry Graham. This trope has been around forever in wrestling, and in my opinion has no negative effect. In fact, it even extends to YouTube, with Simon Miller from What Culture claims Bill Goldberg as his father, and Adam Blampier does the same with Eric Bischoff. It's fun, it works, it's awesome. Number 7. The moves that shouldn't work, and the moves that should. The sharpshooter looks like it hurts. The pile driver seems like it might kill you. And the conchata or bamaye looks like it would shatter someone's face. These are all examples of believable finishes. You know what isn't believable? The people's elbow, like at all. And yet, I still love it. Also, the strike finishes. The head of the table, Roman Reigns, has a mean spear. He also has the Superman punch. It's goofy. Orange Cassidy has the orange punch, and AJ Styles has the phenomenal forearm. These are all basically the same move. The thing is, wrestlers are portrayed as stronger and tougher than your average man or woman. So being knocked out by one shot seems kinda off. Not to mention, the whole point of wrestling is no striking. You also have the mandible claw. I don't see why wrestlers don't just bite down. Sami Callihan would. And yet, when the Fiend pops out of nowhere and applies it, combined with his evil laugh, it is actual perfection. But I'm not just talking about finishes, unfortunately. The Tornado DDT, the Canadian Destroyer, and the Death Valley Driver, all these moves will get you is a solid 2 count, which is bonkers. But the Claymore Kick, the Judas Effect, and even the Rainmaker just about guarantee victory. What are you gonna do though? It's wrestling. Number 6. Strike the pose. Wrestling finisher moves are absolutely wonderful. They look incredible, and the crowd always reacts. That being said, you know what makes the finish maneuver even better? When they stop and strike the pose right before doing it. Rhino in the corner impatiently waiting for his opponent to get up so he can give him the gore. Randy Orton dropping down to the mat, waiting for whoever to get up so he can hit him with an RKO. The Undertaker pulling his thumb across his throat before going for the tombstone or the last ride. It's literally the last thing someone would do, logically, during a fight or physical combat situation, but not in wrestling. In fact, I wonder how Roman's Superman punch would look if he didn't cock his wrist first. Or would Jerry the King Lawler, or even better, Kurt Angle, come off as ticked off without yanking down the straps on their tights? Would Hulk Hogan be the same, without that finger point, right after the Hulk up, but before the leg drop? No, it would not. It would be less than. And this is professional wrestling. We do not do less than. Number 5. Samoan heads are indestructible. I am a huge fan of Polynesian wrestlers. I always have been, and I probably always will be. My first real exposure to them came in the old WWF with the head shrinkers. If you threw their head into a turnbuckle or gave them a headbutt, it always seemed to just wake them up. Which sucked when they were bad guys, but was awesome when they were good guys. As time progressed, I would be introduced to the Barbarian, Rikishi, and Ming. All had impervious heads. Even moving forward into the modern era, the Usos continue this running trope, and I love it. Number 4, pulling the ropes makes it hurt more. Okay, full disclaimer here, I have a younger brother, and yes, when we were younger, I would do wrestling moves to him. Yes, submission holds. And something that always worked in wrestling, but never in real life, grabbing the ring ropes for leverage. I have watched Ric Flair do this more times than I can count. When he did this, Sting or whoever would twist and turn and holler out in pain. I would put my brother in the same move, and though we didn't have ring ropes, we did have furniture. I would grab the bottom of stuff, trying to apply pressure, and it never worked. But guess what? Even after I figured this out, I would see it in matches on TV, and would still totally buy into it. Number 3, the referees. Professional wrestling would not be the same without the referees. Like seriously. Sometimes they have to take a hit. Sometimes it's the greatest thing you will ever see. And sometimes it's totally hokey. And then sometimes the refs are actually pretty tough guys. You may remember legendary referee Randy Patrick when he got into his funny shoving match with Ric Flair on Monday Nitro that time. Yes, it was awesome. Earl Hebner of Montreal fame has also shown plenty of backbone. He has knocked Shane McMahon off the ring apron and then started shoving Triple H. Oh yeah. And then the battle of the refs. Earl Hebner against Nick Patrick with the WWE and WCW refs at ringside. All things considered, this match was the stuff dreams are made of. Things even broke down during this match and we got the only ref schmoz in history. Oh god, yes. My personal favorite ref of all time, Charles Robinson, who's had some classic moments and taken some pretty stiff bumps. I've still remembered all these years what made me fall in love with this guy. Him and Ric Flair. Do you remember Little Nate? Number 2, superpowers. So, Jim Cornette is without a doubt the biggest proponent of the realistic sports-based presentation of professional wrestling. I get that. He has no time for stupid nonsense, and that makes sense as he came up in the 80s NWA and has had his own promotion twice. However, this was before Vince let the cat out of the bag. Nowadays, we're all in on the joke. Yes, we know it's already been predetermined. So was Avengers Endgame. The wrestle haters went to go see that, didn't they? And speaking of that, some wrestlers have superpowers. And don't lie, you know you love it. The Undertaker being able to control the lighting of any arena, shooting lightning, taking a monumental beating, and then just sitting up. His brother, wink wink, Kane, the big red libertarian machine, also had super strength, being able to rip steel apart in his debut, and also could control fire. His intro was awesome. You could make the argument that Hulk Hogan had superpowers. His name was Hulk, and the hulking up thing, it had me cheering as a child every single time. Even in the modern era, Sami Callihan at Impact, who's one of my favorite heels, or tweeners, depending on your point of view, has the ability to teleport, or at least the app for teleporting, and it has made his current rivalry with Trey Miguel that much better. But as awesome as superpowers are in wrestling, the next has to be the best. Number 1, the Mist. The Asian Mist, or Poison Mist, is without a doubt the most pro wrestling thing in pro wrestling. In kayfabe, only certain wrestlers are born with the gland in their throat that allows them to produce the mist. Because wrestling! In reality, it was thought up by Gary Hart as a way to make great kabuki even more exotic, since being Japanese and having that mask wasn't good enough. This would also be picked up and made famous by Kaiji Muto as the Great Muta. Now, you may have thought this was thought up in Japan, but oh no, it's American. However, Japan did what Japan does best, and that's take the mist, crank it up to 100, since now we got different color mists. You got the red mist, that supposedly burns. The blue mist, it'll put you out. The classic green mist, that's most common here in the United States, which blinds you. And the dreaded black mist. But that one really doesn't come up that much. Over the years, various different wrestlers have used the mist. You got the before mentioned Great Kabuki, along with Great Muta and Tajiri. There's also Asuka. But travel around, and you will find that both Rosemary, as well as Taya Valkyrie or Frankie Monet, have both used the mist. And of course, the one you know you want to hear about, Hornswoggle. Yes, Hornswoggle has the gland in his throat apparently. Wrestling, you beautiful, stupid sport. And that's the list. Now, we know I'm right. I'm always right. That's why you keep coming back. Watch my videos. But if you got an argument, tell me it in the comments. I'm Walt, the most gangster nerd on YouTube. Do me a favor, check out my other show I call The Sauce, a more frequently uploaded wrestling review. And as always, I'll be seeing you soon enough.